Yeah, let's go. We came a long way, that's what the song say. And I could do all things, I could do all things. Yeah, I could do all things, yeah. We came a long way, that's what the song say. And I could do all things.
The issue of web accessibility is a complex one. We're talking about the WCAG guidelines, not to get too technical, but it's a 1,000-page guideline, right? So that's a lot of information, and quite honestly, a lot of developers are, they're not necessarily experts in that particular realm. They might be able to make some basic adjustments, and that's great, and that's a great step forward. But having a tool in place, an ongoing accessibility tool, can really help, especially these conventional sites for dental practices.
Yeah, so you mentioned WCAG. So those of you in the audience out there, there's a couple of, I guess, guidelines and legislative guidelines out there for accessibility. So this is not something that's just some random thing that's up in the air or people are just shouting out buzzwords. There's actually a lot of technical documentation out there. So Ari, if you could you just please touch base on, I guess, what the acronym is and how it relates to our customers?
Right. So WCAG, that's the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and that particular set of guidelines is, like we talked about a 1,000-page guidebook essentially, and it guides all of the legislation globally. So everybody has contributed, all of these accessibility experts, and by the way, Accessibility is part of the organization that creates these guidelines, and so we've essentially all have this consensus on what it is to make a website more accessible. And so these are the guidelines that are at the core of all the legislation that is not only in the US, but is also in Canada, Australia, and Europe, everywhere. So these are the guidelines that governments are using to guide them in understanding what makes a website more accessible.
Wow. Okay, so we have WCAG. I'm looking at our notes. We have ADA Title III. What exactly is that?
So ADA Title III, that is basically, if we think about ADA, and basically ADA was back in the American with Disabilities Act. That was back in 1990 that it was first passed. And those are the adjustments to the physical spaces. Things like doors have to be a certain amount wide, or there needs to be a ramp, or there needs to be a wheelchair accessible bathroom. Those are the adjustments that were made in that legislation back in 1990. Now that the DOJ has made this affirmation in 2018, basically including digital space and kind of like merging and kind of making that comparison and saying that people with websites need to make these adjustments to appeal to people in the disabilities community. So again, they need to make those adjustments that will help them to interact with the content and essentially let them in, rather than creating these issues that can essentially lock them out.
And those issues being like the navigation and the colors and
exactly. So we're talking about the three key elements that we always tend to focus on: keyboard navigation, critically important. That's really the heart of it. Screen reader adjustments. So those are the image descriptions that are created automatically by a tool like Access Widget. And then we also have a UI. And so the UI is basically that little widget that you click on, and it has 50 buttons and 6 profiles and a built-in dictionary and all of these things, all of these features that will allow people with certain disabilities to customize the way they see the site for their own use. So we talked about people with epilepsy or people who are colorblind. Various disabilities.
Colorblind. Colorblind people out there. Remember when you were in grade school and you took the little test with the...
That's right.
One little kid that says, I don't see anything. Everybody's like, it's a 7. He's colorblind. He has money now. He has a family and wants to spend that money on his family. And he's coming to your dental practice, but he can't navigate, so he can't spend the money. So he finds someone that does. So remember,
that's exactly right.
Boy or girl.
And you know what? Unfortunately, it's not that uncommon. So you think about all of those things, and people who don't have disabilities, it's natural. You don't think about the issues that you're not aware of. But once you become aware of them and you start to look at the possibilities, you're like, wow, we can really make a difference for this community by making a simple change.
I want to know your thoughts, your comments. Put them in the comments below. If you have the opportunity, do that thing, smash that like button. All right, guys, I'll see you all next video.
Yeah, we came a long way. That's That's what the song say. And I can do all things.